Got a couple of games right here off to the left. Canvas 2, Summer Days, Dream Party. Well, yes, Dream Party, but also DC Dream Christmas. Shuffle, Really Really, Snow, Da Capo 2 PC, Da Capo 2 Spring Celebration, Clear, and then Kimi ga Nozumu-an with the Kimi ga Nozumu-an shrine, in front of which are the trading figures and the Suzumi Haruka Kotobukiya figure. Also got a Nanaka and Yume Kotobukiya figure, scale figure, and Nendoroid respectively. And then there's Dream Party posters. Got a couple of more things on there. I've been moving stuff around because I'm ADHD about some of that stuff. I am receptive to change in the Itabeya, let's say. But the reason I wanted to showcase that off first, besides kind of like to show the evolution of the Itabeya in general in real time, was to talk about the quote-unquote Summer of Eroge challenge I've imposed upon myself during these past couple months. This has been a thing that I've consistently been trying to do since about the summer of 2019, now that I look back upon it. But it always seems like during the summer I want to play eroge. During the first time, when I truly started to get into eroge and visual novels was, I want to say, right at the tail end of 2017. I had played visual novels before, but never really completed games or played, kind of like really surface level ones. I had tried and failed to play Fate Stay Night. I had played like one entry of Nekopara, obviously, but otherwise that was like my real, like, I guess like that was my only exposure to the medium. And then it wasn't until the tail end of 2017, during that summer, like in August or something, that I kind of sat down and played Katawa Shoujo. Not to completion, I only did one route, but it was one of the first visual novels that I saw to the completion of at least one route, let's say. But over the past few years, I've been really terrible about completing games to like 100% completion. I would mainly like hop in, hop out, unless the game was, linear in structure, or if it was like, the routes kind of all converged to create a narrative or something. But I've always wanted to change that. I've felt bad about it. Like, I look at my VNDB and I'm like, you know what? I have these games that I haven't beaten yet, and or games that I really want to experience, but I just haven't gotten around to them for some reason. Most of that time, it's because I'm procrastinating, or like all I'm doing is I'm watching anime and I can't pry myself away from it, or in my free time I'm reading manga and I can't pry myself away from that, or I'm playing video games and similar story, can't pry myself away. Because ultimately in a day my time is limited, and I kind of like to commit fully to something instead of like doing half of this, half of that, and that's been kind of plaguing me for a long time. During 2019, which I had alluded to before, was when I was really getting into Denpa. I had started to get into Denpa a little bit earlier, but that was when I really started to get into Denpa. I was getting more into various things that were posted on JP, talked about on JP, and something that I felt a strong connection to was visual novels and eroge. But I had started to get more into Bishoujo game anime adaptations at the time, and I was like, you know what, I want to be someone who plays Bishoujo games. Like, I had seen Genshiken, I knew about like the classic 2000s otaku being into Bishoujo games, being into stuff like Da Capo and similar titles. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is kind of what I want to do. So I gave myself the challenge of like, you know what? I'm actually going to sit down one of these days and I'm just going to play a visual novel all day. And it's going to be called the Summer of Eroge. And at the end of it, I'm going to fully commit to this. And I guess the main challenge behind the Summer of Eroge was that like I would basically do nothing but play visual novels for a day or something like that, or a couple days, couple weeks, and that's like what I'm gonna be like committing myself to. One of my biggest challenges in my life, I guess, has been an obsession with anime, partially out of habit, partially out of just sheer pure love for the medium, I guess. But I will admit that a lot of it is that I feel very satisfied completing anime. Like I could sit down, I can watch a one core anime in like a day or two, and then just mark it down on Mal as complete, and it's simple gratification, and it's quick. And that's something that I've recognized in myself. Like I will end up watching a lot of one core anime, two core, like just anything in general, and I might not necessarily like all of it. It's not that it's a worthless endeavor, because I've definitely felt like I gained something valuable by watching a lot of shows. But I guess as a result, like like a consequence of this is that I was missing out on a lot of other things. Like I wasn't really reading much manga, and when I would, like I would just fully commit to it. And I wanted to do that with visual novels in general. And the Summer of Eroge was like basically a challenge that I gave myself. That was like, you know what, I'm gonna completely flip the script here, and instead of spending like 99% of my time watching anime, I'm gonna do the same with Eroge. And inevitably, I failed every time. During the summer of 2019, I think I finished one game. Um, Finished in quotations, and it was Skito de Sankaku Uranai, and I think I only did like two routes in that one. I think towards the end of the year, or towards the end of the summer, I played through Muv-Luv, or at least the beginning of it. I never got around to alternative, and I kind of bounced off that pretty quickly. And there might have been a couple of other things I tried, like Hoshizora no Memoria, um, but it wasn't very successful. But it kind of got my feet wet, and if anything, it kind of allowed me to explore like what are the best visual novels. I would spend some time on VNDB looking at games and stuff, and kind of like looking at screenshots and tags and stuff, and kind of being in awe at what was available there as opposed to all that I understood within anime. Because I feel like within anime, I've been into it for so long that I kind of know a lot of it, and there's little that will surprise me, I guess. Like, I won't stumble across a show that could potentially be a favorite because I might have already heard about it. I know all the otaku anime because I've looked at all the anime tagged on that as on VNDB obsessively, and I've kind of like either seen them all or made a mental note of it in the back of my head that like this is something that will probably appeal to me. With visual novels, that's not necessarily the case because I haven't obviously had a chance to explore it that much. But over the years, I have continued to attempt and fail the Summer of Eroge before. I think 2019 was potentially one of the most successful attempts at that, but I continued to do it a little bit later into 2020 as well when I was full hikikomori. I was still going to school, but we had Zoom school, so I was basically not leaving the house. And that's kind of when I played Subahibi over the course of a couple of months. Prior to that, I also completed Sayano Uta, but like everybody has played that before. I'm kind of just glancing at my list above. I tried to get into Daizare, and I did two routes of that one, and I did enjoy it generally speaking, but it was kind of a dense thing to get through, and it wasn't as enjoyable to me in a conventional sense. All the while, I was craving like Bishoujo game titles, something a little bit more simple, a little bit more slice of lifey, romance oriented. Then I went to go play Two Heart 2. I only did like 1.5 routes of that one, another game I never really completed. One of the last visual novels I played before graduating uni and subsequently kind of bouncing off visual novels for a while was the aforementioned Subahibi, and that was one that I actually played to completion. I did every route, saw every ending. Then it was a game that consequently left a pretty big impact on me because I felt like I guess just generally speaking, like I saw the entire game to completion. So, and I'd spent a lot of time with it, so it kind of wormed its way into my psyche, especially after playing it for so many months. Kind of like on and off, I guess. But yeah, I mean, after that, I graduated, I started working, I didn't have as much time, and in the afternoon, I mainly was like, you know what, I'm just gonna watch anime, or I'm just gonna watch YouTube. But starting in this past year, in the summer, I want to say like in May or June, yeah, in May, I was invited into a visual novel server on Discord, and it was kind of like a book club type of thing. And the whole thing was like everybody's gonna read a visual novel that we vote on, and we're kind of discuss it as we go, and then whatever, like kind of like a book club, like I mentioned. And I was like, you know what, this is the excuse. This is finally the chance I can have to resurrect the summer of eroge, which had pretty much been a failure since 2020, or I guess since its inception. Let's be real here. That I can actually like complete some games, and it's an excuse to, because I will be held accountable for not completing anything. Over the course of the past summer, I've played, let's see, I've played 2 games for the server. One of them was a little bit more substantial, and that one was 33 hours. The other one was a little bit shorter at about 15. And then I played another one with a friend that took about 8 hours. And then in my off time, I spent 10 hours playing School Days HQ for a blog that I did. I didn't complete that game, but I do intend to get back to it at some point in the near future. It was just kind of like a little side quest, and because I wanted to write about School Days, because I was working on a project related to that. I had to rewatch the anime. That was an important thing that I needed to do. And then also in my off time, I had been playing Da Capo 2 finally. A little bit of lore. I don't know if I mentioned it explicitly in the vlog, but one of the first vlogs on the channel of Artificial Night Sky was like laying on the floor talking about eroge for 30 minutes. What motivated me to make that vlog in the first place was that I had started playing Da Capo 2, and I realized that I couldn't get on the route for Asakura Yume. It was one of those games where it has enforced playing order, and you had to play at least 2 routes prior to getting to Yume, and Yume is my best girl from Da Capo 2, so I was like, you know what, screw to this, I'm not happy about this at all. Being someone who hadn't really completed games before, the idea of playing like 20 hours of something that I didn't necessarily care about to get to what I actually cared about never sounded that appealing to me, and I didn't have the resolve, unfortunately. At least at the time. Now I do. I have played games to completion that I didn't necessarily like, and it kind of feels like I'm getting a more intimate understanding of visual novels, I guess just generally a better understanding of what visual novels are, because like prior I kind of knew, but I didn't know bad visual novels. In a similar way that with anime, that I know bad anime, but like I still watch 3 out of 10 anime, 2 out of 10 anime, even 5 out of 10. Like stuff that isn't that special. Whereas with visual novels, I was approaching it more in the sense of someone who was dividing their time elsewhere, and as a result was like, oh, I only want to play the best things. I only want to play the 9 and 10 out of 10s. And if anything fails to live up to that, it kind of feels like a waste of time, because I could have just been reading another 10 out of 10 manga or something. And then the rest of my time was dedicated primarily to anime. Now I kind of flipped the script. I've been playing more visual novels than I have in probably ever. Like I completed 3 games this past summer already, which is more than I probably have completed in the past 3 years. And then I'm working on another one. Like I was playing Da Capo 2 all day today. I'm on the Tsukishima Koko route prior to going on the Asakura Yume route. And I like it. I did the Yukimura Anzu route first, and I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. The game is awesome. I'm enjoying it a lot. And I'm glad I'm actually giving it the time to do the time it deserves. So I've been using this program called Play Night. It's kind of like a launcher, because it tracks how long you've played games, because I'm really autistic about that. So that's kind of what I'm using for that one. And then I'm just tracking everything over here on VNDB, obviously. Overall, the summer of eroge this year has been extremely successful. I honestly could not have... I mean, sure, it could always be better. I could always be doing more, right? But given the time that I have, I'm still working every day, basically, except the weekends. So I only have so much time. But this is the first time in forever that, like, I get home from work and I do something other than, like, immediately start watching anime or something. I'm like, you know what? I am going to play visual novels. And all it really took was just finally sitting down and playing one. And then once I've completed one, then it gives me the motivation and the confidence that I can continue to do it in the future. And I think above all else, it's knowing people that are also into visual novels that helped a lot and make me accountable for that. Or like, I feel like I need to finish something because otherwise, if just left to my own devices, I'll be like, you know what, I might not necessarily want to complete that. And even if I'm playing a game that isn't for the visual novel server on Discord, Capo 2, now that I have the confidence that I can complete games and I can commit to things and see them through to completion. Oh, sorry, I just bumped the camera. I can see these things to completion. Now I can kind of apply those lessons, I guess, quote unquote lessons, to improve my habits, I guess, because I'm really bad about completing things, video games in general too. There was a lot of times I just start a game, never finish it. Same thing with visual novels. But now I'm working on improving that, of course. And I guess with anything there comes a cost. And one of the things I've kind of given up for the sake of visual novels and eroge was just like quote unquote regular video games. So I really haven't played anything. I sold my Steam Deck because I really didn't play it. And God knows when the last time I had my PS4 and PS3 plugged in. So some of those might just be sold. Because I kind of lost interest in a lot of that. And I've kind of been falling out of love with video games for a while. And I started to redirect some of that time and energy towards visual novels, which is something that I've basically been wanting to get into forever. But for one reason or another, mainly procrastination. Mainly just the idea that, you know what, like, I don't know if I want to commit all this time to something and take away from my precious anime time, but all it really took was, I just had to play a game or two, talk to a couple people, and then I all of a sudden find the motivation within myself to see these things to completion. And it's been a very rewarding experience for me this past summer, and I hope to continue these this motivation moving forward, I guess. So the summer of eroge in 2025 was a success. See you again in 2026. The summer of eroge continues. It gains a new dimension at the end of summer. The Sui no Sora translation just dropped, so I guess it's time to continue on with yet another denpa. This is gonna be fun. So, I guess, to say the summer of eroge had concluded was to be kind of inaccurate, because it's gonna continue and it's never gonna end.